Hey guys, it's Sandro here, and today's video by popular demand is my review on P&S Bead Maker. Now just in case you've been under a rock for the last year or so and don't know what Bead Maker is, according to the manufacturer P&S, it's a fast and easy to use, high performing and durable polymer based spray sealant to protect your car's paint. Cross-linked polymer technology in an easy to use spray application has been around for well over a decade now, but Bead Maker has definitely found a strong following for various reasons over the last year, being a huge success for P&S. It took a little longer for Bead Maker to make its way to Australia, and longer again for me to finally find the time to thoroughly test it out. But good things come to those who wait, and I really hope you guys enjoy this review. Now I've done my very best in this video to not only say what I think about Bead Maker, but to actually show you guys on video a few of the various tests I conducted that help me judge any new paint protection product, evaluating aspects such as its user experience, its ability to amplify the paint, its feel, slickness, water behaviour, its self-cleaning abilities, as well as its durability and chemical resistance. So to start with, let's look at its application and user experience. Now, I've had the chance to apply Bead Maker to a bunch of cars so far, in both indoor and outdoor environments, on various paints, some of which were freshly corrected bare paint, while others had existing sealants and coatings on both wet and dry vehicles. I've also played around quite a lot with applying more or less product and basically trying to get a feel for it and discover as much as I could. One thing I can say with complete confidence is that Bead Maker has a super easy application. In fact, it's enticing, smells great, and to put it simply, is a real pleasure to use. There's really no way you're going to go wrong with its application. Just spray it on, wipe it down, buff it dry, and you're done. Now, you can certainly apply it and wipe it down, working panel to panel if you wish, but the application is just so forgiving that in most cases, you can actually spray the whole car down at once, and then come back and wipe the whole car down without experiencing or having to deal with streaks or difficult wipe-offs. So in that respect, it honestly applies more like a quick detailer or even a waterless wash cleaner, rather than the durable and high-performing spray sealant that it's described and sold as. One point that I think needs addressing is the amount of solution that's applied. There seems to be a general consensus that you need to go nuts with the amount you spray on the vehicle, or else it won't work as well as it should. Now, I'd actually agree that compared to any other spray sealant on the market, you do need to apply a little more, as Bead Maker really isn't a strongly concentrated solution at all. But once you have an even mist applied over a panel, all the testing I've done, much of which you're going to see in a bit, has clearly shown me that there's absolutely no benefit whatsoever in completely saturating the panel with Bead Maker, as it doesn't change its performance or durability at all, and all it does is make you waste a heck of a lot of product with no benefit to be seen. So in general, when it comes to a true, durable, high-performing spray sealant, I'd use on average about 25ml to seal an entire car. With most quick detailers, I'd be more around the 50ml or so mark, and with waterless washes, it'd be closer to 250ml. With Bead Maker, I'd say 75 to 100ml should be ample to give you complete coverage, and anything above that is just wasteful. To prove this, I used a far greater amount of Bead Maker on the test panels you'll see shortly, to show that more product doesn't help it perform any better. So honestly guys, I don't know who decided that you need to overload the paint with it, but save yourself a bit of money and only use what is necessary. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I tried Bead Maker outside on a few cars and even on hotter days in direct sunlight. Once again, the user experience was great and there's really not too much to be concerned with. The only thing I'd say is to stick to applying it to one panel at a time if you're in direct sunlight and you'll be fine. But even if it does streak a bit, just go over it again with your first saturated cloth and then your dry cloth, and it should remove any streaks quite easily. Now, another area that I really liked Bead Maker in was in a wet application as a drying aid. It really does help aid the drying with that extra lubrication, and if you're outdoors, the standing water on the car will also largely eliminate the chance of streaking compared to a dry application. So all in all, when judging Bead Maker's application and user-friendly experience, it gets high marks across the board. So on to the next round of testing, which was using Bead Maker side by side with other sealants that I know and use quite frequently. For this video, I prepared 5 test panels, 3 of which were applying all these sealants to clean bare paint. One was a wet application and the other was over a ceramic coating. All the panels were completely decontaminated given a quick machine polish, IPA wipe down, masked up, and the 5 different sealants were applied, and all were given 24 hours to cure indoors, which is more than ample time for them to completely cure. The first test panel was ceramic coated and infrared cured, left to set for a further 24 hours, and then masked up into 3 sections, the first section being left with just a ceramic coating, while the second section was top coated with Bead Maker, and the third section was top coated with Nova Boost Quick Detailer, and all were given yet another 24 hours to fully cure before being placed outside for a week. With this particular panel, my main interest was how Bead Maker would perform as a maintenance top coat for a ceramic coating, in relation to its ability to maintain the coating but still allow it to perform at a high level. Now this is just one of 5 tests you're going to see, and for the most part, as I mentioned earlier, I've done these tests so that you guys can also see and also judge the results for yourselves. With the bare coating on the left, Bead Maker in the middle and Nova Boost on the right, the difference in water behaviour is quite massive. Some of you guys may have seen the video I did on Nova Boost a little while back, where I talked about how Boost actually works with whatever it's applied over and doesn't mask its look or water behaviour with its own, but rather just amplifies it. You can see here that the section with Boost is almost identical to the bare ceramic coating, and if anything, it's actually a touch better. The section with Bead Maker is honestly kind of disappointing. Not only don't we see any beads from Bead Maker, but the water sheeting is really slow and it's completely masked the coating's fantastic water behaviour. And it seems that the more I rinsed down the panel, the worse the water behaviour got with Bead Maker. I've said this a ton of times in the past, that water behaviour isn't just about beautiful water-like beads and dramatic water sheeting. It's the best way to judge a product's self-cleaning abilities, as a strong hydrophobic surface won't allow foreign matter to bond and stick to it as well, causing it to deteriorate faster, and it'll also be much quicker and easier to clean. So water behaviour is a great way of judging a paint protection product's performance. The truth is that after spending all that time and money ceramic coating a vehicle, the last thing you want to do is kill or mask that coating's self-cleaning and performance abilities by covering it up with something that just doesn't perform anywhere near as well. But having said that, this was only one test, and I'm also not sure if Bead Maker was designed to be used as a top coat for ceramic coatings. In a second test, I tried Bead Maker in a wet application on clean, bare wet paint. Hopefully you can see that the bare panel displays extremely poor water behaviour with super slow water sheeting. On the left I sprayed on Bead Maker and on the right I used Nova Jet. Both were applied to wet paint, quickly worked in and wiped down. Now compared to the last test panel, where Bead Maker was applied over a ceramic coating and left outside for a week, it's actually performing much better here. But if I'm going to be completely honest, and once again you guys can judge this for yourselves, the water behaviour on the right with Jet is just in a different league to the water behaviour on the left from Bead Maker. Now Bead Maker probably wasn't designed to be used in this way, but then again I'm guessing that neither was Jet. But it's just another test to gather more information. But regardless, if you look back at the water behaviour, before I applied these two sealants, it was absolutely appalling. And you can see that both sealants have definitely made a dramatic difference. It's just that one is performing significantly better than the other, and the more I rinse down the side with Bead Maker, the worse it gets. So back in the shop, 24 hours after all the sealants were applied to these 3 test panels, I'm going to start with evaluating BeadMaker and its ability to amplify the look of the paint, in relation to added gloss, saturation, as well as its ability to fill in minor imperfections. So to put it more plainly, I'm looking at the test sections that look the richest and darkest, and that also hide the defects best. Now looking back at this footage, I can see that it's kinda hard to tell one section from the other. So I actually put together another test panel to help show you guys what I was seeing in person, which you'll see in a moment. But based on these panels, the clear winner for me was Luster, and last place had to go to BeadMaker that just wasn't noticeably amplifying the paint. So I used both Luster and BeadMaker in another side-by-side comparison test panel that had a lot more haze so that it would show up the differences better on camera. Now once again guys, this test was entirely made to help you guys judge the results for yourselves. But at least in my eyes, the difference here is again extremely dramatic. The side with Luster looks truly deep and black, and you can also see that a lot of that haze has been eliminated. While the side with BeadMaker just hasn't really made much of a difference at all, and almost looks no better than the bare paint did originally. The next test was feel and slickness. Now this was a hard test to show on camera, and I had to think a little about how I was going to display this on camera, which you'll see shortly. But based on feeling all these sealants in person, there was really 3 standouts here, which were BeadMaker, Luster and Boost. But I think BeadMaker and Luster were perhaps the best too. So I propped that panel up a touch and used an old ceramic coating bottle to try and test which surface was the slickest and with the least amount of friction. Now I can tell you that all the panel sections here were quite slick, and none were disappointing, but as you'll hopefully be able to see, Reload just wasn't quite in the same league as BeadMaker as far as slickness goes. And that's also something I could tell by just the feel, and even by applying BeadMaker on the actual cars, as it really leaves a nice slick finish. But when it came to testing it up against Luster, which is also super slick, it was just at the point that I couldn't declare a winner and had to call it a draw. Either way, BeadMaker feels great, being truly slick, and in my experience, at least as slick as anything out there, if not better. So it definitely got high points in that area. The remainder of the testing was taking the test panels out one by one and showing you guys the water behaviour on each test panel, as well as a little cleaning resistance to see how BeadMaker and the rest of the sealants hold up after a wash with just a regular pH balanced car detergent, but using it at a higher concentration with a little more aggression, so it probably compares to giving the panels a few washes over a period. I'll also add that the car detergent I used rinses off super easy with no lingering residue or any added enhancers, which is the reason I chose it for this test. And lastly on this testing, it's important to note that just because a sealant isn't performing well, it doesn't mean that it's been entirely removed or stripped. It can mean that it's just had its performance reduced. But it's also really important to understand that once that performance level has diminished, so does the sealant's ability to adequately protect the paint to the same level. I'm going to let you guys watch and judge the water behaviour of Bead Maker and the other sealants for yourselves while I sum up with my conclusions. So let's start with the pros. P&S has absolutely nailed it when it comes to the user experience of Bead Maker, as it just couldn't be a more user-friendly product to apply. But beyond that, it's actually a really pleasurable experience using it. Secondly, and perhaps the primary key to Bead Maker's success, is its outstanding slick feel. It really is about as good as anything I've tried, and it's that addictive slickness that makes you want to keep running your hands over the paint to feel it, that adds to the pleasure and satisfaction you get from using it. Thirdly is its fantastic lubrication, which makes it great for using it as a drying aid, but also for some light cleaning duties. Now let's look at the cons. First and foremost, this needs to be said. This product is called Bead Maker, but to put it simply, it doesn't create water beads on the paint, and that's a bit of an issue for me. If you're going to call it Bead Maker, it needs to bead water, and to be honest, it should do it really well. But Bead Maker's water behaviour, to put it nicely, is average at best. In fact, its beads are not only disappointing, but the water sheeting is slow and subpar. I understand that I'm being critical here, but seriously, it's called Bead Maker and it doesn't bead water well at all. Secondly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't accept that Bead Maker is a high performing and durable spray sealant. To put it plainly, it's a quick detailer in every aspect of its application, durability and performance. I've discussed this point many times in past videos, that a manufacturer can call their product anything they like, but just because you call it something, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it really is. Based on all my testing, much of which I've done my best to reenact in this video, Bead Maker just doesn't perform on the level of a high-grade polymer sealant, nor is it anywhere near as durable. But what it does do is work like a really easy to use, low active content, safe and slick quick detailer. And if that's what it really is, that's completely fine. But it's just not fair to describe it as something it isn't and expect it to perform as something it doesn't. I think it's unquestionable that Bead Maker is fantastic to use and super slick. But in my opinion, based on my experience with it, it doesn't have the ability to add noticeable saturation and amplify the paint like most sealants. Nor is it as durable, nor is the water behaviour anywhere near as good. But compare it to a quick detailer that's really all about light cleaning and slickness, and it does a great job at that. But one thing that's hard for me to personally see past is the fact that whatever I applied it over, such as other sealants and ceramic coatings, it just killed their water behaviour and wouldn't let the coating or sealant perform as it should. So I just can't recommend it to maintain a coating or a quality sealant, as it's going to mask their fantastic performance and self-cleaning abilities. In the end guys, my advice with all detailing products out there is to use what works best in your world and what you like. Bead Maker is super sleek and awesome to use, and if that's at the top of your list, I say use it and enjoy it. In all honesty, I wasn't originally planning on doing a review on Bead Maker, as there's already so many reviews of it out there. But the overwhelming requests by you guys to have me review it and give my opinion on it is the reason I did this video. It was a lot of work and testing to put this review together, but I honestly really appreciate that with even all the videos on this product already out there, many of you still wanted my take and thoughts on it. So I just want to say thanks for supporting this channel and valuing its content. It's been a real learning and growing experience for this humble detailer to learn how to shoot and edit videos, as well as interact with comments and messages from around the world. It's been a real pleasure and privilege to have you guys watch, comment and like these videos, and I just wanted to say thanks for the support, it really means a lot.